What's up, everyone? All right, talking about the MacBook Air 2020, as you could tell from the title. But approaching this review has actually been quite difficult for me. And sometimes this happens when we do reviews. You think you know the right approach you want to take with it. And then all of a sudden, you get thrown a curveball. And that's what happened, is because Apple released the MacBook Pro 13-inch just a few days ago, at the time of this recording. And the baseline MacBook Pro 13-inch and the MacBook Air 2020 really sort of overlap in a way that makes it very difficult for a lot of us who are on the fence of which one do I buy. And I've been playing with this laptop for the past few weeks, and it's impressed me in a lot of ways that I didn't think it was going to do. So I'm gonna go on a limb and say, you should get the MacBook Air 2020 over the baseline MacBook Pro 13-inch 2020, and I'm gonna tell you why right now. Let's get down to it. First off, the design. It looks pretty much exactly the same as the previous generation of the MacBook Air. And I have that with me right here. It is the gold one. If you didn't see this review, do click on the link in the description below for that. A lot of my thoughts on that Air do come into this, but this is even more impressive than this one. Not just because of the keyboard, we'll talk about that in just a second, but because of also how it performs in day-to-day tasks. But side note, if you're on the fence about the gold, do not be. The gold is beautiful. And it's something unique and different from a laptop besides gray or silver and space gray, which is nice, but the gold, I like that. The subtle differences you're gonna notice as soon as you lift up the lid is actually the keyboard and the keyboard layout. Elephant in the room, it's now got the Magic Keyboard. Now, I have seen so many responses on YouTube and on the net. People have this visceral feeling about the butterfly keyboard. They hated it. I mean, it was like they almost wanted to turn green at times. They were so frustrated. Can I be honest with you all? It's not that big of a difference. It really isn't. I think maybe a 20-30% difference. And I've used the butterfly keyboard on the 2018 MacBook Air and also on the 2019 MacBook Pro 13-inch. It didn't bother me. Now, this isn't the first Magic Keyboard I've used. I've actually used it on the MacBook Pro 16-inch, which we'll be doing a review in a few weeks' time, more of a long-term review on that. And of course, then I have the Magic Keyboard here for this monitor and the whole setup that I have here at this desk. Honestly, I type a little bit faster on the butterfly keyboard, but that's just me. Internally. Now, the MacBook Air starts off with a 10th generation Intel processor, i3, i5, and i7. Let's say you're getting this laptop for a business, right? And you're saying, look, I'm giving this for someone that's just gonna be doing data entry daily. They're gonna be searching some things on the web, emails, documents. The i3 is plenty for you. If you are getting this laptop for someone like yourself or like an employee, they might want to do a little bit of photo editing or might want to do a little bit of graphic work, minimal, okay? Then I would say definitely go to the i5. You will see a performance benefit out of that. If you want to talk about the i7 for a moment, I don't know anyone who would upgrade to the i7 on a MacBook Air. You might be that person, and if you are, I would love to hear why you are upgrading for that, but let me know in the comment section below. In terms of storage, they've also bumped that up inside of this thing. Now, instead of 128 gigabytes as the standard storage from last year's variant, you now get 256 out of the gate. I like that, Apple. Keep doing these kind of things because 128 was way too little, especially with media nowadays. 256 is great. I would say the sweet spot again is 512. You could say 1 terabyte. Now, RAM has also been upgraded. Now you get faster RAM inside of this. Unfortunately though, Apple is still sticking with 8 gigabytes of RAM out of the gate on these laptops. I have 8 gigabytes in mine. You can max it out at 16 gigabytes of RAM. I wish Apple would have had 16 as the baseline. It's just more for future proofing than anything else because of applications, but we'll get more into that in terms of usability. Besides that though, the speakers sound really good. And a little bit different sound than the previous version here. I got a microphone on me. Let's just play a YouTube video real quick. This is Venom. I'll get the mic here.
Thank you for bringing us collectively to this moment.
It's got a nice kind of dynamic sound to this. I mean, they're packing some really good speakers in this small form factor.
History starts today.
Huh? Not bad, right? I gotta shut this down due to copyright issues, but anyway, it sounds really good. Is it the same as using the MacBook Pro 16-inch? No. That's like a mini home theater system in a laptop. That thing's phenomenal. This is really good and it's impressive. And if you're gonna watch Netflix in bed or wanna watch YouTube videos, you're gonna have plenty of sound coming out of this thing. The Apple claims all-day battery life. That depends on your usage. Shut the brightness down 50%, just browse the web, do basic menial tasks. It will get you through most of the day. You do start doing a little bit of photo editing, start doing some movie editing, playing around a little bit with some apps out there, push the brightness up a little bit, the battery life is gonna go down. It's like that with every laptop out there. So see what your usage is like and kind of gauge it from there, but no issues at all. And in terms of ports, you've got 2 Thunderbolt 3 USB-C ports still on the left side. Apple does not like having ports on the right side for some reason on the MacBook Air. I wish they would split it up at least 1 and 1, but unfortunately they don't, so you gotta rearrange your desk or find another way to rewire your peripherals to it. Besides that though, the display is beautiful, the same as the previous generations. It's the Retina display. The colors are great on it, vibrant. You can calibrate it, of course, to be a little more color accurate if you're into photo and video editing. The brightness, I have no issues with at all. A lot of people complained about last year's variant on it. I think Apple fixed a lot of that in firmware. And then honestly, like I said before in the previous video, if you don't put 2 laptops side by side, you're not gonna notice a difference. So it's not a big deal there. And that's pretty much the MacBook Air 2020 in a nutshell. It's an evolution, not a revolution. Minor upgrades, but very welcomed upgrades. Let's talk about usability. As a lot of you know on this channel, I do a lot of photo editing. I talk about cameras and videography and all that fun stuff. I would say for some of my workflow that is more intensive, let's say if I'm shooting medium format, or if I'm shooting anything 4K, 5.9K, 6K in terms of video content, it doesn't work because that's not what this laptop is designed to do. I would recommend the 16-inch MacBook Pro for a lot of those things because of the power and the graphics card, et cetera, et cetera. This laptop is great for those who shoot, let's say, a lot of video on your phone, or you shoot photography on your phone, or maybe on a lower megapixel camera, anywhere from, let's say, 12 to 26 megapixels, right? This will handle it no problem at all. This can do 4K in terms of video, but I would recommend staying around 1080p. If you want to do 4K, it's like taking a Honda Accord going around a Formula One racetrack. Now, it can do it, but it's not going to do it the same as, let's say, a Porsche 911. You know what I mean? You kind of got to know where you're going to be at in terms of usability. So how do I use the Air? Well, when I'm doing like intensive editing, I won't use the Air. I'll use the MacBook Pro 16 inches I just mentioned. But for my day-to-day usage, browsing the web or watching YouTube videos, Netflix, and doing like online shopping, whatever the case is, I'll use the Air. And the reason is because it's just a very easy laptop to bring with you. And for those things that I do, it doesn't get really hot. Okay? It's not really warm to the touch. It's not gonna burn my lap if I'm sitting in bed with it doing those things. It doesn't do that. Now, if I'm gonna be photo editing, yeah, it's gonna get hot because those applications require power. So you need to figure out as a user, based on what you do, which laptop is right for you. Having said that though, I used the previous generation of the MacBook Air. I saw my limitations really quickly in terms of my creative flow, what I could do with it, what I could not. But what impressed me about the 2020 Air is that with the 10th generation Intel processor inside of it, and the enhanced graphics card that they say gives you something like 80% better graphics performance or something like that, I noticed that I was able to do a lot more tasks in Lightroom and Photoshop that with the previous Air would have really slowed my workflow down tremendously. So I gotta give credit for Apple. They sort of made the Air a semi-pro laptop. And in some ways, I feel that the Air, because of the size, the price point, the 10th generation Intel processors inside of this thing, the faster RAM, supersedes in specs over the baseline MacBook Pro 13-inch. And I would say this is the way to go for that. This is a semi-pro laptop, and that's what's impressed me about this. Don't fit a square peg in a round hole. Don't try to do too much with this laptop just to save some money. But I will tell you a couple things to do on this to really improve your workflow, as I mentioned earlier in this review. You want to max out your RAM. It's a little bit more money, I understand, but 8 gigabytes of RAM is very limiting in terms of using programs like Photoshop and Lightroom and things like that. Storage-wise, upgrade the storage a little bit. If you have a 256 already and you're like, look, I already have to buy an external SSD drive, then go 512 or go 1 terabyte. And based on the fact that this has the 10th generation processor inside of it, it's got faster RAM, I would go for the Air. I would go for the Air over the baseline MacBook Pro. And now if you're wondering, well, have I tried the baseline MacBook Pro? No. But here's the 2019 version, and it's pretty much the same thing except taking out the butterfly keyboard and putting the Magic Keyboard in it. I put these two neck to neck, side by side, ran a few applications to see how they both performed, and the Air was pretty much at the same level as the MacBook Pro. By the way, if you're wondering, yes, this can power this Asus ProArt 34-inch display, no issues at all. handles it with a dream. If you want to see it work, here you go. There we go. There we go. Works, no problem at all. So I would recommend, put some money into, let's say, getting an external display, something like this ProArt Asus 34-inch curved display or whatever display that you like. This works great on the MacBook Air 2020. It powers it, no issues at all. Thunderbolt 3, fantastic setup. And you got yourself a nice little home office. And then when you want to go on the go, you got a nice lightweight laptop that will perform beautifully for the majority of you out there. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the MacBook Air 2020. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Like always, follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube. Be safe out there, guys, and we'll chat to you soon. Take care.